On 5 News, stop using your phone while driving. The passionate plea from relatives of a family destroyed by a driver on his mobile. Tracy Houghton was killed along with her sons, Ethan and Joshua, and her stepdaughter, Amy. Thomas Croker was scrolling through music when his truck ploughed into their car.
Our children lost their lives because of the reckless actions of Thomas Croker. But we are not the only family to have suffered.
Amy's mother, Kate, says the 10-year sentence doesn't do justice to the crime committed. Also, getting hold of guns on the internet. As police warn of the terror plots involving weapons, our investigation reveals how easy it is to be offered them online. A new battle over Orgreave, anger as the government rejects calls for an inquiry into the clashes between police and miners. And as the race for the White House enters its final full week, we meet the Trumpettes, who are cheering on Donald. Hello and welcome to 5 News. I'm Sian Williams. It was a very personal and powerful message to all motorists. Stop using your mobile phone while driving. Kate Goldsmith was speaking outside court where Thomas Croker had been jailed for killing her daughter Amy, as well as 2 boys and their mother, while behind the wheel of his lorry. He'd been changing the music on his phone while driving at 50 miles an hour. He then ploughed into the back of stationary traffic. Mrs. Goldsmith said his 10-year sentence would not ease the family's pain, nor send a strong enough message to others. Simon Vigar reports.
Enjoying a song and a dance with her big brother, these memories of 11-year-old Amy Goldsmith are beyond precious to her family. Amy died in the same car as her stepbrothers, 11-year-old Josh and 13-year-old Ethan Houghton. They were returning home after a camping trip to Devon, driven by the boys' mother, Tracy Houghton. Lorry driver Thomas Croker admitted all the charges against him after the pile-up in August.
Our children lost their lives because of the reckless actions of Thomas Croker. But we are not the only family to have suffered due to what is perceived by many as minor, inconsequential crime. A crime that takes place on our roads every day.
The family's small Corsa was completely crushed in the 8-vehicle crash. The lorry was doing about 50 miles an hour when it ploughed into the line of traffic on the other side of the A34 here on the Oxfordshire-Berkshire border. The key to the case is what the driver was doing at the moment of impact. And the court was told he was flicking through music tracks on his phone. This is the shocking footage from the dash cam that the families wanted to be released. It proves Croker only looked up from his phone with less than a second before impact. Adam Pearson was also caught up in the crash.
And can you believe that he wasn't looking up, hardly looking up for 45 seconds?
No, we can't believe it. But it is the truth, hard to believe as it may be. It's impossible to believe that somebody who's at the wheel of a vehicle that can do that much damage could show such disregard.
The bereaved say using a mobile phone at the wheel should now be condemned as much as drink driving.
We urge you to make a personal commitment to stop using mobile phones whilst driving and make our roads safer for everyone.
One man's mistake has devastated 2 families. The parents of Ethan, Amy and Josh say this has to be a turning point.
Well, let's talk to Simon. He joins us from court now. Simon, what is being done to stop motorists using their mobile phones when they're driving?
Well, the road safety charity Break, Sian, says it's woefully inadequate. The number of traffic police is going down, the number of convictions has halved, and the RAC survey found that 30% of motorists admit to using their phone. What the families here want is a complete change of attitude to treat this just like we now treat drink driving. Currently, the maximum sentence is 14 years. Thomas Croker got 10, could be out in 5. That is very poor as far as the families are concerned. They want the sentences to be much higher And the judge said today of the driver, he might as well have had his eyes closed.
Simon, thank you. Anti-terror police say they're increasingly concerned about extremists in Britain trying to get hold of guns. They say half the plots that they've foiled in the past 2 years involved would-be attackers looking to buy the weapons. Well, today, a 5 News investigation reveals how readily people offer guns for sale on the internet out of the sight of security services. Here's our chief correspondent, Tessa Chapman.
Load! Target practice at a police firing range. They're using one of the standard weapons issued to British armed officers. These guns can fire 17 rounds before reloading. Police can't use them without intensive training.
The Glock 17 was manufactured by the Austrians for the Austrian army, so it is effectively a weapon of war. Any firearm especially, we do not want getting into the wrong hands because they are lethal barreled weapons.
This is what can happen when they do. In July, in Munich, a teenager opened fire at a McDonald's restaurant and shopping centre. He killed 9 people, then turned the gun on himself. 18-year-old Ali David Sonbali had bought it on the dark net. The dark web is an assortment of websites and services you can't find through a normal search engine. But you don't need links to the criminal world to access it, just a regular computer and a special browser that conceals your identity. You can download that software in a matter of minutes. What you do next is virtually untraceable. We posed as a willing customer. We said we were looking for a Glock 17 and wanted it to be shipped to the UK. Almost immediately, we were contacted by people purporting to sell weapons. This vendor promised 100% secure delivery in 4 to 5 days. Another named a price, 0.99 bitcoins, almost £600, and promised it would arrive in 2 days. This seller said he could be even quicker. And they promised good service too. I've been selling guns for 4 years, this one claimed. Another had a great review. A-star comms, great stealth, good kit. We didn't go through with the transaction. We would have broken the law. But we told the National Crime Agency what we found. And they admitted they can't be sure of the scale of the problem.
I'd be guessing if I put a number to it. It's more than 1 or 2 times a year. I don't think it's 100. But as I say, it's an area, it's a route of business for us as we try to gather intelligence, as we try to keep the public safe, but we're very interested.
As technology changes, so must policing. One gun in the wrong hands in a public place is all it takes to cause devastation.
And holster.
So, Tessa, what exactly are police doing to try to stop this?
Well, the National Crime Agency has dozens of officers working to target illegal activity on the dark web, including guns. By its very nature, it has to be undercover work, and they're having some success. Recently, a man from Birmingham was jailed for 10 months. He had ordered parts of a gun online. It had been delivered through post from America and then intercepted at customs. So police are also working with delivery and postal organisations to try to help them screen suspicious packages. Now, today, police are launching a big campaign asking the public to help if they know of people with illegal firearms. And our investigations really shone a light on a different aspect of that.
Tessa, thank you. There's been anger after the Home Secretary ruled out an inquiry into one of the most notorious events of the miners' strike. Violent clashes between miners and police officers at a picket in 1984 became known as the Battle of Orgreave. Well, there have long been claims of police brutality and of a cover-up by their bosses. Campaigners say Amber Rudd has gone back on her promise to them. Just a warning that our political editor Andy Bell's report starts with images of violence from that day.
It was the most violent day of the miners' strike. Thousands of police confronted striking workers who were picketing the Orgreave coking plant in Yorkshire. For years, there have been calls for an inquiry into allegations of police brutality and fabricated evidence. Today, unexpectedly, the government said no.
I have concluded that there is no case for either a statutory inquiry or an independent review.
Christian Matheson.
This is an astonishing and frankly shameful decision by the government. The government have led those families up the garden path for the last 2 years.
And several Labour MPs compared this to Hillsborough.
The Orgreave families and campaigners need the same justice as Hillsborough had. They need the same type of independent inquiry to establish the truth.
But that comparison was rejected by the Home Secretary.
There were no miscarriages of justice. There were no deaths. There were no convictions. The Right Honourable Lady should be aware. Therefore, it doesn't merit the same level of status as a public inquiry as was required for Hillsborough.
There are questions, though. One officer present on the day said his superiors dictated how they should write up their notes.
We were told to write phrases that related to the offence of riot, which means that there's a group with a common purpose to cause violence or cause damage. That's what we were instructed to write. That was unprecedented throughout 34 years of policing.
Afterwards, the campaigning group said justice had been denied.
It is nearly 32 years since 95 miners were arrested at Orgreave. Now some of those miners are dead, and the surviving ones face the prospect of more time, more delay before we get truth and justice.
The force in charge at Orgreave was the South Yorkshire Police, as at Hillsborough, and many still believe only a similar public inquiry can reach the truth. But that has now been ruled out.
Let's talk to Andy now. He joins us from Westminster. Lots of anger about this decision, Andy. What happens next?
Well, Sian, members of the Orgreave Truth and Justice campaign, some of them are still here, as you can imagine, disappointed. Quite frankly, some of them pretty shocked because they did believe that the signals they were getting from the government was that there would be at least some form of inquiry, and so the announcement today was an even bigger surprise to them. But Amber Rudd rejected the comparison with Hillsborough, as you heard, rejected the idea that there was anything to be learnt about policing today from what went on back on that day in 1984. Now, Chris Peace from the campaign said to me that the campaign will be meeting and consulting with lawyers as to how to take this forward, and Labour are pledging that if they're back in government they will have an inquiry, but for now that inquiry is off the table.
Andy, thank you. Coming up on 5 News.
He's kind of handsome.
You think?
Yes, I think so.
5 News meets the women who want to see Trump in the White House stand, honouring the heroes who took part in one of World War II's most dangerous missions. We'll see you after the break. Hello and welcome back. You're watching 5 News. It is just 8 days until America decides who will be their next president. The contest between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton has been bitter and brutal. And despite the constant scandals surrounding him, the polls, believe it or not, are narrowing. This was 2 weeks ago. Hillary Clinton more than 7% ahead of her Republican rival. Now she's caught up in her own controversy, with the FBI reopening its investigation into her use of private email while she was the US Secretary of State. Just look at that gap today. Her lead has shrunk. It's less than 3 points. So could she be overtaken? Well, 5 News will be following the contest and its conclusion from some of the crucial states. Our correspondent Julian Drucker joins us from the key battleground of North Carolina tonight. Julian, what impact is this email row having?
Sian, this FBI inquiry has the potential to reshape the race. Investigators are reportedly going to go through 650,000 emails on the laptop of the estranged husband of Hillary Clinton's top aide. Now, for the FBI to have made that bombshell announcement in the way they did, there was a feeling that they perhaps had something big. Now the feeling is not so clear. There's no evidence so far they have any new evidence. Is the director of the FBI, James Comey, playing politics with this? Well, some people say he is. The Democratic leader of the US Senate has said he may have even broken the law by speaking as he has done so close to the election.
Donald Trump, of course, has been having his own problems. So how's his support holding up now?
Yes, he was caught making those lewd comments about women. The impact of that is still being felt. Now, there are more registered female voters in America than male, and of the so-called educated female voters, they overwhelmingly back Hillary Clinton. We have been to Florida to meet some of Mr. Trump's most loyal and, as you'll see, dedicated supporters who are hitting back. Meet the Trumpettes. These well-connected women want all women to vote for Donald Trump. And the group now claims it has thousands of members. At their special event in Florida's Palm Beach, in amongst all the slogans, there's real excitement that the Donald could soon be the president. He wasn't there, but even the cardboard version of him was the object of adoration. And as a man, what is it that stands out to you?
Oh, he's kind of handsome.
You think?
Yes, I think so. He's good looking, and you can tell he's good looking because he's got a gorgeous wife as well. But he's a real man. And yes, he likes women, but I think all men do, don't they?
When people say Donald Trump is misogynistic, what do you think about that?
I don't think he is. I've met him, and I think he's only been a gentleman. And from what I know, other people have met him say the same things.
We're all on a super high.
News of the FBI investigation into Hillary Clinton's private email server boosted the crowd here. This is the woman who founded the group.
Thank you to our Superman hero.
That Superman hero has been her close friend for a decade. Socialite Tony Holt-Kramer told me others are increasingly seeing Trump as she does.
I think the women adore him. And the women that don't, I have one thing to say to you. Just trust in the fact that you have to love your country more than you love your candidate. So if you're not a big fan, get over it and vote for him anyway. Because the alternative is not the answer.
The next president's route to victory will almost certainly need to pass through Florida. We took a journey across the Sunshine State to see whether the Trumpettes' message is breaking through to other women. At this less glitzy gathering on West Palm Beach, they weren't all feeling the enthusiasm.
He is extremely sexist. I think he's degrading. And I think he doesn't think past himself.
There's nothing I like about that man, nothing.
It's not that I don't mind what he says, it's there's bigger issues in this country than talking about women.
With just 8 days to go, this female fan base is making the T for Trump and smelling the V for victory. Julian Drucker, 5 News, Florida.
And tomorrow, Julian will be reporting from Arizona as he looks at the issue of immigration in the election. Finally, Winston Churchill called it the worst journey on earth. For 4 years during World War II, convoys of ships travelled from Britain to Russia through treacherous Arctic waters and suffered horrific losses. Now, 75 years on, survivors have met for a commemoration in Liverpool. Peter Lane was there.
In the sunshine and warmth of Liverpool and in the shadow of a modern warship, memories of the cold, dark days of the Arctic convoys from veterans like 92-year-old Alex Owens.
When you stop to think about it, then you can remember it. Oh, the cold was terrific, it was. And when you took your scarf off, it pulled your skin away if you weren't careful, you know.
It was that cold.
It was that cold. Yeah.
Did you ever wonder if you'd survive, if you'd make it, not because of the Germans, but because of the cold?
Oh, I think we always lived for tomorrow.
A sometimes overlooked or forgotten part of the war, the Arctic convoys took vital supplies through frozen waters full of U-boats to help Russian troops battle Germany. Winston Churchill called it the worst journey on earth. 3,000 British sailors died. On this 75th anniversary, there was a tribute for the last remaining veterans.
The rate of loss was 4 or 5 times higher than in even the most significant dark days of the Atlantic convoy. So this was really hard work and constantly trying to work out whether the threat was coming from the air or the surface or below the surface, or whether the biggest threat was the weather.
Roger Ellison began his convoy on this day, the 31st of October 1944, and fears the lessons of so many lives lost are seldom learnt.
I'm just here just to represent those who died and those who didn't come back. It's just the horror of war, isn't it? History it just repeats itself over and over again.
The day ended with a glimpse of the past, a flyby by one of the planes that used to escort the convoys as they set sail from here to dangerous waters. Peter Lane, 5 News.
Now, before you go, Matt's joined us to tell us what's coming up on 5 News tonight. Hello there.
Hi, Sean. We'll have more on tonight's lead story at 6:30. That terrible tragedy of the family of 4 killed when a lorry driver crashed into their car while he was looking at his mobile phone. Half of us have admitted to using our phones when we're behind the wheel, so how do we change attitudes? We'll be discussing that. Also, is a children's programme about transgender suitable for a 6-year-old? This is Just a Girl, a CBBC programme about a girl who used to be a boy, and it's the centre of a big row over what age you teach children about transgender issues. Those stories and plenty more at 6:30, Sean, from our new studio as well.
Yeah, what do you think? New
Love
home?
It. Love it.
Love it. Let us know what you think as well. That's it for now. Don't forget, if you want to have your say on any of today's stories, you of course can go to our Facebook page. You search for Channel 5 News. Claire Nasir has the weather next. I will see you again tomorrow at 5. Matt, of course, back at 6:30. Thanks for watching tonight. Goodbye for now.